way down at the bottom of the ocean lies a very dark abyss, commonly referred to as the Midnight Zone. That is a really interesting name choice, isn't it? Well, it doesn't just stop there. If we look at the zone above it, it's called the Twilight Zone. And the zone above that, it's called the Sunlight Zone. That sounds just like the zones of the atmosphere. That is because the same concept is involved in both instances. The truth has seriously been hidden in plain sight. Concerning the ocean, water and other matter in the water limits how far you can see. We refer to this as opacity, or the opaqueness of the water's ability to prevent light from passing through it. According to the American Museum of Natural History, the midnight zone in the ocean is dark because of the opacity of the water. They say the ocean is very, very deep. Light can only penetrate so far below the surface of the ocean. As the light energy travels through the water, the molecules in the water scatter and absorb it. At great depths, light is so scattered that there is nothing left to detect. Likewise, we know that there's water in the Earth's atmosphere. It's just less dense than the water in the ocean. And the water in the air similarly filters light. But being less dense, it requires more room. In the ocean, the sunlight zone is said to extend from the surface to a depth of 656 feet deep. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Daylight on Earth is said to extend about 12,450.5 miles. But that depends on the season. My point is, that is a lot more room. Now, concerning the atmosphere, I have mentioned atmospheric opacity before, and described it as one of the 3 major reasons why night exists on the flat Earth. To that, a member of our debate board asked the question, if the atmosphere is opaque, how do we see through it? Well, it is the same thing as what we see going on here in the ocean. We can see through it a little ways, but the farther and farther you look, the more and more opaque the water becomes. Another common example I like to use is sheet protectors. I can see through one just fine, but as I stack more and more on top of each other, the more and more opaque they become. In this instance, one sheet protector represents a certain amount of distance in the atmosphere. This is why we can't just pull out a telescope and see Europe from America. Now, a frequent question I hear concerning this is, well, the stars are way farther away than Europe is, so why can we see the stars on the horizon, but not see Europe? To that, I ask that you please remember that we live in an atmospheric gradient, which means the atmosphere is less dense at higher altitudes, which means light can travel farther at higher altitudes. Additionally, please remember our 3 factors that cause night on the flat Earth. Night isn't just caused by atmospheric opacity. We have this other thing over here called refraction.
Anytime light slows down, coming at an angle into a medium, the path of light bends. The physics term for that is refraction.
Yeah.
It refracts.
Thank you, Neil. We demonstrated that in our fish tank laser experiment, when we created a gradient in the water and caused the light to get bent downward. This in turn caused objects to appear lower than they actually were. So when the light from the stars get refracted downward, it causes them to appear lower than they actually are. This is why we can't see Europe from America. But we can see the stars above and beyond Europe. Now, if you were to listen to Neil Tyson for a little while longer, he will claim that the downward refraction of the light will cause the source of the light to appear higher than it actually is, not lower. And there are demonstrations that can show us that this is possible. We addressed this in our fish tank laser experiment, part 2 and part 3, and further proved that in this instance, the downward refraction will cause the light source to appear lower than it really is. If you haven't seen it already, it is very much worth checking out. Here are some links to those videos. We've also got them included in this video's description. The important thing to remember here is that night isn't caused by just one thing taking place. It is actually the result of multiple things taking place at the same time. We talk about each of these things in detail in this video here. These three basic principles are irrefutable, and it is shocking just how many people utterly ignore them. But hey, when the truth is hard to bear and people don't know how to cope, that is when people tend to struggle by doing their best to change the topic and avoid the issue. When they can't avoid the issue, they feel backed into a corner, and that is when they tend to get nasty and start spitting and throwing out insults. Very often, people don't even realize they are doing it, because they do it subconsciously. At this point, what I have been trying to do with people when I see this happening is just acknowledge that they are trying to change the topic, and that they are getting hostile, and then let them know that this is a defense mechanism firing off. Afterwards, I can tell them, when you're ready to address what I actually say, I'll be right here. That is me tossing the ball to them and letting them come back when they are ready. We don't want to harass anyone by stuffing it down their throat. I'm still very imperfect at this communication skill, but I feel like this is an effective strategy that can help us get through this hurdle together. If we can do that, we'll be in good shape. Please let me know your thoughts on that. I want to know what works best for you. Thank you all for watching. This video has been brought to you by the Flat Earth Institute of Science. Do you have questions about something? Do you see something you disagree with? Please feel free to come and let us know about it on our debate board. I am literally on there just about every single day. It is totally free, and respectful participation is more than welcome. Also, feel free to come check out our playlist. We've got every lesson we've taught there in order.